Hi, I'm Nick Rinkowski with Des Moines Metro Opera, and I'm here today with Kristine McIntyre, who's directing La Boheme for us this summer. Kristine, welcome to Iowa.
Thank you very much.
First, let's talk a little bit about your relationship with opera, how you got started, where you began, and how you got to where you are today.
Okay. My undergraduate degree is actually in English literature, and then I went into theater. I have a master's degree in theater. But pretty soon I knew that what I really wanted to do was opera, and my first opera job was actually working for the San Francisco Opera. I worked there for 7 years, and then I moved to the Metropolitan Opera. And after 8 years on the directing staff of the Met, I decided to exclusively be a freelance director.
Okay. Well, and this is your first summer here at DMMO.
It is. It is my first time here.
And what attracted you to Central Iowa?
Well, what attracted me to DMMO was the chance to do a new production of Boheme. Boheme is not an opera that we get to do a new production of very often. It's because it's such a piece of standard rep, a lot of times we just rent a production of it. So the notion that I would get to create something from the ground up for this audience in a very intimate space was a really interesting and unique challenge.
As you said before, this is one of the world's most popular operas, La Boheme. What are people going to see here at DMMO that they can't see anywhere else?
Well, I think one of the things they're going to see is that it is essentially a traditional production, but it's a very authentic production. One of the things that really interested me as we got into designing this piece was to try to strip away some of what La Boheme has accumulated over the years. For example, a lot of times you walk into the theater and you see a garret scene for Act 1 that's filled with all sorts of kind of funny, weird props, things we think artists would have, you know. And in actuality, artist studios tend to be very bare. And so when we went back and looked at what the original set designs looked like in the 1890s for La Boheme, we realized that Puccini really wanted something that felt very spare. He was really interested in the idea of poverty and fragility. So we've tried to create a production that feels very much like what Puccini was trying to achieve musically. So that's one of the things. Another thing that we've done is we've used photographs of what Paris looked like while Puccini was actually writing the score. Eugène Atget, the wonderful French photographer, has a collection of photographs that we've pulled from. And so this is actually the Paris that was current at the time. So ours is a very authentic production in that aspect of it. At the same time, it's a very fresh production. It really has a modern sensibility to it as well. You know, today's audiences, I think, are very clever in that they have a lot of access to different kinds of media. They're a very educated audience, probably the most visually educated audience in history. So we've tried to appeal to that aspect of their intelligence as well.
Tell us a little bit about your career highlights. What are some productions you'll never forget?
Well, I think one of the things that I've done that I had the most fun with was directing the Zeffirelli production of La Traviata for the Metropolitan Opera on tour in Japan.
Wow.
Japan is a great place to take an opera because the Japanese are crazy for the art form. And we took a great cast. Renee Fleming, Dmitry Orostovsky, Ramon Vargas, people that I'd worked with before at the Met, but had a real blast doing it in that context. One thing I've done recently that I really enjoyed was a production of Jonathan Dove's Flight. Flight is a new opera. It's about 12 years old. Jonathan Dove is a British composer who wrote it for the Glyndebourne Touring Opera. I did it for Pittsburgh. We just did it again in Austin, and this time Jonathan Dove came. And I have to say that sitting there at the dress rehearsal next to the man who actually wrote the music, watching him laugh and really enjoy what we'd done with his piece, was an experience I'll never forget. You don't get that in opera. I don't get to sit next to Puccini and ask him what's this moment supposed to be about. So the notion of having contact with a living composer was a really great experience.
Yes, Des Moines Metro Opera was lucky enough to have Carlisle Floyd here last year for
Great.
this.
Carlisle's very generous about coming to things.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's such an important connection for us to have, because it is a living art form, and we want to maintain it and push that forward. I think a lot of times audiences and singers too come with a certain predisposition, a certain feeling of how the piece should be, a certain look that they imagine in their head. And sometimes challenging that can be really difficult. I enjoy the challenge of that, of showing people something that they haven't seen before, telling the story in a really new kind of way. I tend to do a lot, actually, of very new opera and a lot of very old rep that doesn't get done a lot, mostly because those pieces give me a chance to do something unique and different.
Well, I want to thank Kristine McIntyre for speaking with me today, and certainly for directing La Boheme for us. We're all anticipating that greatly. Of course, that begins on June 24th here at Des Moines Metro Opera. And I'm Nick Rinkowski, and thank you very much.
Thank you.